Our org chart is an upside down org chart, right? So I'm at the bottom, everyone else is above me. So I support everyone above that. So we all support the guy who sweeps the floor, for instance. So that kind of portrays, or it gives everybody the idea that, hey, look, we want to hear what you have to say. We're going to make sure it happens.
Just a quick reminder for you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better.
Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. I'm with Jack Lukasik, president of Satellite Tool. Jack, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me today, Ari.
It's my pleasure, Jack. It's the Made in America podcast, though, my friend. So we start off with the same two questions. What do you make, and why do you make it?
Well, we make aerospace components, fully machined 5-axis components for the defense and commercial industry. We do large machining. We go up to 63 inches in diameter, full 5-axis assemble components. We do like intermediate cases, sink rings, manifolds, seals, retention plates, rotary ring heads for helicopters as well. So a wide variety of product, but our core competencies are cases and assembled components.
Stuff that goes in the air eventually.
Stuff that goes in the air and helps keep this country safe and help people move from point A to point B.
Both very, very honorable things to do. So let's get into a little bit about the why, Jack. Why do you do it?
Well, the real reason why I do it, well, my father started the business way back when I was a young man, young boy actually. But I really got into it by watching him do it in our garage, starting off in Bristol, and as he became a partner with our company, and then I started working there, sweeping the floors and putting together gauges. And as I got old enough to run machines, I learned that. And because of doing that through my childhood, it sparked my interest in engineering, and I went to engineering school over here at University of Hartford. I finished mechanical engineering technology and continued on working in the business. And now my two sisters join me in the business, and we run the company. And my father kind of sits on the side and watches happily, you know. And once in a while, he'll step in with some input, which, you know, his experience, you just can't throw that away, you know.
Yeah,
there's days
it's hard to find if you didn't have it. Yeah.
There's days where I'm like, "Why are you here?" You know, and there's days where like, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. I got this one little question. Maybe you can help me with," you know. And it's nice, you know, and it's good to have him there still and walking around. And we like treating our employees as family as well too, and I think we get that feel, and that's a lot of our feedback that we get from our people that come to work for us or have worked for us. Like, we really like the family atmosphere.
Yeah, well, it is truly a family atmosphere. I mean, your dad started it and then sort of passed it on, and now you and your two sisters are involved. How did that sort of come to pass? I mean, you guys both just sort of, all three of you, I guess, just sort of found out about the business through stuff you did in your childhood, and it just happened to develop a passion. It's rare. I mean, I've talked to a lot of manufacturers, and certainly multi-generation ones. It's rare to see multiple of the kids sort of get passionate about the business and sort of get involved in it, but it seems to have happened in your case.
Yeah, it is kind of rare. I think my youngest sister kind of, you know, fell into it because she saw us doing it, and we were happy doing it. And she's like, "Oh, you know, why not?" You know. Where my older sister, she went into doing other stuff, right? And she was using an office in my father's facility doing mortgage sales, you know. And eventually she realized it's a pretty tough business, the mortgage business. But being around it more, she realized, wow, this is actually kind of interesting. And I do kind of want to do this. Where at first it was more like the old school way of thinking, like, nope, the boy's going to work in the business and the girl's going to go figure out and, you know, work somewhere else or something like that. That was my father's old way of thinking coming from Poland, you know. But it doesn't run true because she's a very strong leader in our company, as well as my younger sister as well, doing the HR and accounting side of it. My older sister is the vice president of the company. So very involved in the company day to day, all three of us. We're a very strong team. And there's certain days I'm surprised we do it. There's certain days I wonder how we do it. You know, people sometimes go like, "I can't believe you guys are going having dinner tonight, or you're going to see each other tomorrow night." You know, and,
aren't you sick of each other already?
We have family events that we do. We don't just not do them because we see each other every day. You know, so it's good. It's definitely good. There's days where we yell at each other, but the nice thing is we can yell at each other, and then 5 minutes later, it's forgiven most of the time.
Just put it behind.
We understand that we have to get it off our chest. We kind of know each other, and it's been doing it for, 16 years with my oldest and 12 years with my youngest. full time. So
where did you sort of get the skills? Technique is the right word to say, but I think what I've seen as I've traveled around and talked to people in my own life lived experience, key to having those good relationships is, like you said, the ability to sort of hit the topics head on, whether it's yell or just be really upfront and open and honest with each other, get it all on the table so that you can move past it. Where'd you guys learn that? I mean, is that something that you grew up doing in the family? Was it something you figured out over time? Because I think that's a huge thing I don't see most places.
My parents instilled that into us. They always told us the most important thing is the three of you. That's it. You three have to get together. If you don't get along together, then the family is not going to be together. And we didn't realize as kids like what that really meant. I don't think they really thought of us working together, in the future as well. But they always, if you get in a fight, you got to make up. And it's very important. They're very close with their siblings as well. So it just kind of instilled in us. It's an automatic. It's not an option to stay mad at each other. When I hear it, and it happens, and it's unfortunate, and I can't knock anybody, but certain families, certain siblings don't speak to each other. Mm-hmm. And to me, that blows my mind, but I can understand that. I can have compassion towards that, but that's not the way that we want to treat each other. And you never know what happens in life, but so far, we get along very good, very good. You can't complain about that. So it helps make the day go better.
And it sounds like it's not about not having a crossword with each other. It's not about that you always guys get along perfectly every time. It's about when you have those problems, you just go right at it, or what's the...
Well, that's the thing. Exactly. We'll yell at each other and we'll talk about it the next day, or wait till they all calm down. And, usually the one person who kind of overstepped more kind of knows. It's kind of known, right? And hey, look, and if you come in and you come, hey, I'm kind of got a little loud there, and then all of a sudden the conversation just turns around and you work it out. It just kind of seems the way we work it. I can't remember the last time I held a grudge with one of my sisters for longer than a couple of hours, and that was probably because I didn't have time to circle back to them and have a conversation.
Right, you're sort of stewing in your own
right.
in your own brain. Are you able to translate that approach to like the broader organization? Because, what you're talking about here and sort of not holding the grudge and sort of having the direct conversations and acknowledging when you're the one who maybe, look, it takes two to tango. I think we all know that, but sometimes it's a 90%, 10% tango, right? It's not always 50-50. Right. And it's important for the person who does sort of own the majority of the transgression or whatever to be able to own that. And you build that trust. I've seen when it's, if you do it to others, then they're willing to do it to you. Are you able to sort of, I guess maybe you don't even agree with that assessment, but if you do, are you able to translate that approach to the rest of Satellite Tool to sort of make the whole business sort of operate like that?
No, I do. I do agree with that approach. And we do have an open door policy at our company, right? We want people to be open and transparent. We've been really preaching more precise and clear direction and communication, whether it be via email, whether it just be the way you speak. Use the right words, be clear on what's happening. And a lot of times an employee may not understand that they're not being very clear. But to be understanding to that person's feelings that day sometimes have to be taken into account. Somebody might have a parent that might be on their deathbed, or they might have an issue with, they got in a car accident their day, and, they're a little on edge. So you try to help them through that in the right manner without showing favoritism, of course. You can't do that. But we, still being a small company, I think that helps. And I've heard a lot of employees' feedback saying, I really appreciate you being compassionate because I want to be here. It's just, I have this leg issue. And you can see it and you feel it and you work with them. This person's going to work for you harder and longer if you help him now, right? And that's always what we do. We help. It's about helping each other, right? If I help my employee, they're going to help me. If I don't help my employee, they're not going to help me.
So how do you think about, I completely am with you on the compassion, right? I mean, you've got to treat people like people, not like machines or a number. And with that, right. How do you think about sort of accountability and making sure people carry their weight, or however you want to think about the accountability, while at the same time being compassionate?
It's a tough line to walk.
Yeah,
it really is.
Tell me about it.
It really is, especially with one of your upper managers compared to, a machinist, But accountability is something we try driving every day, and it's a difficult thing. Sometimes it's more easily measurable, the accountability. Sometimes it's something that has other people's hands involved in the matter that could. But ultimately, one person is accountable, right? It's very important. It's something that we strive for every day, and we expect out of our employees.
How does that? How do you, when you think about this? I mean, this kind of culture of accountability and transparency and support, I think it's really important from like an employee retention, employee recruitment perspective. Like, is that part of your whole sort of, you mentioned family atmosphere. Is that part of that family atmosphere? How do you think about, using that sort of family atmosphere and this type of communication to kind of help keep employees at Satellite Tool and help grow the business?
Well, I think that's why we have a lot of our employees. I mean, we have we have 4 guys now working for us for 25 years. And there's at least another 6 or 7 of them that have somewhere between the 10 to 20 mark, right? And then the majority of them, I think we only have 4 or 5 that are within the past 3 years. But having, I think, that atmosphere, that family type of feeling, I know keeps some of the employees here. I've had employees leave and come back because of that. Oh, I thought the grass was greener. I went to this other company and they're corporately owned and yet they're back. I've had actually 3 guys do that. And that was their direct feedback, was just the atmosphere. I like the way you guys treat us here, and I just like the atmosphere here better.
What are some of the things when people use that term a lot, family atmosphere?
Yep.
When you think about what are the specific items that sort of make up that family atmosphere? What are some of the attributes of how the business is run or how employees are treated that you think you've heard from the people that have left and come back that is what they appreciate? What are some of the specifics for someone that's listening and says, man, I'd like to build that family atmosphere. What does that mean?
It means to having the compassion of a person's personal life as well, right? If somebody, I have a lot of guys, hey, look, I gotta leave for an hour and come back, okay? And you're kind of wondering why. And if they do it and they come back, that builds that trust, right? And then if I ask them to stay for an extra hour, they might do that, right? If I gave them that extra hour, it's a give and take. Where I've heard other guys, they get mad if I leave an hour early, and I can't help it if, I got to go to the dentist or something came up with my child or something like that. And that happens, right? And there's always that little small handful that take advantage of it too much. And you work it and you realize it and you keep an eye on it. But that, and giving them the flexibility, right? We give them a little bit of flexibility where possible. Not too much, right? But where it's feasible. We have certain guys who drive a little further, so we might have them come in a little earlier because of the traffic situation going through the city, through Hartford. So we do a little bit of that. But it's hard sometimes because you're trying to get everyone on the same page. But with a company of 70 people or so, with anywhere age range from 20 up to 70, everyone has different situations. But you try to make it work as the best you can. And by being flexible, people, I think, is what they don't get at a corporate atmosphere. And that's our biggest. We try to be flexible to a certain extent.
So I know. Look, in aerospace, you got quality and you got on-time delivery that are just non-negotiables, right? I mean, your customer, and then the customer of your customer, right? And those of us that use those products and fly on those planes demand to have the highest of quality, right? Because lives are at stake in many different ways, and on-time delivery is huge, right? Because you've got $100 million planes or bigger that if your piece is missing, they can't move to the next phase. Right. So when you've got such tight demands for this highest of quality and the most consistent delivery, how do you weave in flexibility when the business feels like it doesn't have flexibility, right? You must demand, like I said, the highest quality and on-time delivery. How do you think about sort of balancing those customer demands and your ability to be flexible with your employees?
It's one of the hardest balancing acts we have to do. There's certain days you're shorthanded in quality, which make it more difficult. But overall, we drive quality as number one. Quality is the most important thing, because if you don't have good quality, you can't deliver the product. So it is a tough balance. There's a lot of times you make the call and say, no, we have to stop. We have to fix this now. We can't snorkel along and just, hand polish this feature later on to make it something crazy like that that's happened in the past. You don't want to do stuff like that. We want to stop it right at the forefront, make it more producible, because the quality is what's going to be hurt if we don't. Right? So getting quality right at the instance of the incident is what we're driving for.
And so you feel like by by giving these, is there a relationship, I guess, maybe between making these flexible commitments to your employees and them delivering for you on the quality side? Do you think they do more for you because you do more for them?
Absolutely. Absolutely there is. Especially a lot of our QEs, they can do first article work from home remotely. Sometimes we allow them to do that, or they ask, hey, look, I need to be home because my child is sick, and I can work on my computer, but I can get 6 hours in on a Saturday or on a Sunday that I know will help, and great. And then there's times where, hey, look, I need to leave half a day. My kid had an issue or something going on. Okay, yep. So they understand that, we give them that flexibility. They'll give us the offers of putting the extra hours in, whether it be in the evening or whether it be on a Saturday or Sunday, which is much appreciated. And that only comes from giving them the flexibility beforehand.
How do you, I've sort of heard from so many people and seen in my own life that some of the best ideas, if not the best ideas, come from the bottom up, not from the top down. Do you subscribe to that? And do you do anything to sort of bubble up those ideas from the bottom up?
We do. Actually, our org chart is an upside down org chart, right? So I'm at the bottom, everyone else is above me. So I support everyone above that. So we all support the guy who sweeps the floor, for instance. So that kind of portrays, or it gives everybody the idea that, hey, look, we want to hear what you have to say. We're going to make sure it happens. Right, and showing the company that flipped over org chart has been a big difference for us.
Where'd you get that idea? The upside down org chart. That's really,
my supply chain manager actually.
A lot of people are probably listening. I know some people watch it on YouTube. I tend to listen on the podcast, but you did that sort of motion with your hands where you sort of showed the.
Usually,
yes, exactly. You flipped it upside down,
right?
And when you did that, it just like really solidified in my mind sort of the imagery. It's just so true, right? And it's exactly how I think about it. I think I come to work every single day to make everybody that works for me to be successful, right? And I view them as my, as my customers, and I'm supporting them, not the other way around. So,
for instance, like we've been doing a floor walk in the old method thinking, right? There's a machine that needs something. Oh, hold on, we'll get back to it when we're done. No, that's the old way. That's with the president on top of him below him. This is the new way. You're more important than what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about is important, but if you need to help with something right at this moment, we stop our meeting, the foreman goes and sees him right away. I don't care what meeting it is, because the machinist came over has an issue. So now we stop. What's the issue? Where before, we didn't do that so much. And then what would happen is after the half-hour meeting or 45 minutes, by the time we get around the whole shop, that foreman might have it happens, that he needed something. He doesn't follow up with him, and then what does that mean to that employee? Well, he doesn't care about me.
That's right.
He's not supporting me.
That's right.
Now it's support right away at the moment of need, not later.
That's got to be part of that family atmosphere.
And I think that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. You think that helps? I'd say it's a certainty that helps.
Thank you for.
Yeah. Do you really, when you show your org chart and the writing, is it literally shown upside down?
Yes.
Or maybe right side up, depending how you think about it.
No, we had a company meeting last week and we showed it again because we had a couple of new employees in. We want to make sure they knew where they were in the org chart, and we also described it verbally, what it means. So they understand that. And I think we're getting a lot more feedback as we walk by. If it seemed like some of the guys were afraid to give feedback before, not knowing if it was wanted. It's always wanted.
Yeah, listen, most business owners and business leaders I know, when I say most, the lion's share, there's the one-off character of the business owner or the business leader that doesn't care and is all for themselves. But the majority of people that I find in their heart, they want to be doing good. They want to support people, but it's hard to get people to believe it and then to actually get the feedback so you can act on it, the true, honest feedback. It sounds like you want it. Do you get it? And how do you go about getting it?
I do want the feedback. We've done a better job recently about our mission statement to our company, right? Broadening the mission statement more than just what you see on our website. Our website's one paragraph. Our mission statement for our company is a whole page. And this mission statement helps drive our upper management to what we're looking for. And we're getting better feedback with that. We haven't done that in the past. We just did this, last month. And now we're having more discussions on, oh, Jack, now I see this. Now, here's an option for this challenge you put in front of us, and this is what I'm looking for. And getting that feedback, and they're feeling more involved, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a good thing to move forward with.
Do you have a thought or an approach of how to get, I loved how you said, we all support the person that sweeps the floor, because ultimately everyone's got to do the thing right to minimize, right, the amount of waste on the floor, right? So there, anyway, I just super connecting with how that could just make everything run better, and support everybody. Do you think about ways to get feedback from like the truly frontline people that are often like afraid to speak up, and in part because they're afraid to say something when they think they got to tell their supervisor, to tell their boss, to tell someone, to tell you? Do you have a way to sort of circumvent that and collect the direct feedback?
We have a turn back form system in our shop where there's an employee board. They can go there and they can input their turn backs. Also at company meetings, we ask for, we don't end the company meeting unless we have 3 questions from our employees. At least 3 questions or the meeting's not over. We're all standing looking at each other until we get 3 questions, Whether we like them or not, we're getting 3 questions. And that helps. In the last meeting, we had, I think, 6 questions. So the meeting before, we just barely got 3 in, So we're doing company meetings every month to keep everybody connected, something we haven't really done in the past.
So literally the meeting will go and you'll say, hey, guys, I'll stay in here till kingdom come.
We need 3 questions.
If we don't get 3 questions.
Right?
And you don't plant 3 questions just to be safe.
No, we don't.
You just wait.
We wait. Then maybe one of the upper manager guys might ask a question because, But typically, last meeting we got a few good ones from the guys. So,
what kind of questions if you don't mind sharing? What type of questions do you get from there? Like, maybe some examples of.
Well, one example was, one guy asked about the new gauging that's being made and a timeline on the gauging, because we're implementing some new swing gauges and stuff into our processes. With the new engineering manager, he's identified that along with the supply. I'm sorry, I'm losing the word for the my facility manager have also identified these as being, starting to become outdated, antiquated for certain jobs. Certain jobs need more specialized ones just to be refurbished for stability and whatnot. So some certain questions like that, some questions are more simple. Some are able to be answered right away.
But they're good questions,
But we do get some good
It's not sort of like, hey, are we going to get a new snack machine in the break room, right? You ask the question, sort of, hey, how's this new gauge process working? Like, that's an insightful, business impacting question. I was just curious if you're getting, you don't wait for them to ask when the light bulb's going to do.
Yeah, that was probably the best question we got last time. So I mean,
it's a good one.
Exactly. So we're getting more questions by making that a standard. 3 questions, we're done. But before we're like, oh, no questions, okay.
Right. Yes, I wrote that down. I'm gonna steal. I'm not stealing's loud, but I'm definitely gonna steal that.
You could use it.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Yeah. Do you think about using the end product of what you guys make to motivate the team to be really engaged in what you do? Like, do you share with them, hey, like this work, you might not understand what this piece you're working on is, but here's where it goes in the end, and like have pride in the final product? Is that
actually we did do that? We actually had an escape on this engine last year. And that part right there, that's the part we make, the intermediate case.
But no one else can see what you're looking at. So
right, but
what engine are we talking about?
The intermediate case.
Yeah.
And we had an escape on that. And one thing we did, we put it in front of the company and showed them, say, hey, look, guys, you got to understand that it's a single engine jet. It's not a commercial jet where one engine goes down, 9% of the time they can still land that safely. This is a commercial engine jet, number 1. If that goes down, the whole thing goes down and the pilot goes down. Number 2, you're defending the freedom of our country. Number 3, here's what happens if FOD's in the part, for instance, right? If it didn't get caught prior to starting the engine. Luckily, it got caught prior to starting the engine. But our customer also provided some pictures of what it could have looked like from past history. Maybe not in this engine, but other engines, which is really eye-opening. Mm-hmm. When the guys see it, they go, oh, wow, now, they really understand it. I would say probably half of them understood it anyways, but there's, there is a handful that don't really fully understand it. All they think is we're making this part and, whatever. There's so many people that look at it and, but we try to explain to them that it's every step of the way is very important. Just because it might leave our facility and then Pratt looks at it and they might assemble it into the engine and do other stuff to it, doesn't mean that what we do to it is not important. Well, the guy said one time, well, doesn't it go out for clean? Well, yeah, it goes out for clean, but still doesn't mean you got to give him a filthy part, right? Like that's a good example of when the guy didn't quite realize it. Well, it goes out for special cleaning, yeah, but That special clean is to quantify the cleanliness, not to clean the part. It's to
Right.
tell us how clean it is. Is it to the standard? So that was
Using
probably the best
that-
example I could use where it really opened someone's eyes, like, oh, shoot, okay. Plus, then you're causing that company problems because their filters are getting clogged up, and then
Right.
it costs. Then they're going to charge us more for the part per unit if we don't do our due diligence.
Right. I bet you that made a real impact on people, though.
It
Sort of
did.
showing them. I mean, that's, to your point, right? This is a, single engine military aircraft. This thing could have caused the whole thing to go down if it didn't get caught. Like, that's got to, if it was me, stop me right in my tracks and really say,
Well, it took me a couple of months of them. That's just a fiber.
yeah, right.
Fibers are okay,
Right.
But see, that's how close they're looking at it. This wasn't a part that had to be measured. The quantifiable cleanliness was a visual, right?
Right.
But with having the ones you have to measure the quantifiable cleanliness and the visual, they kind of still said, "Hey, I got something in here."
Right.
They raise their hand, right? Oh no, this has a lower standard. It's a fiber. A fiber's okay. This is not that standard. Oh, okay, great. But I'm glad you raised your hand. Rather be safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
I'll take that extra minute or 30 seconds for quality as opposed to lower quality of maybe it is non-conforming.
Goes back to quality is number one, like you said. So what about, how do you think about, just going back to sort of this family atmosphere, one thing that I think people struggle with sometimes in smaller organizations is they don't see advancement opportunities. They don't see training opportunities. They don't see promoting, from within because they don't see a lot of movement. How do you guys think about that? How do you is that something you think about? Do you provide those? Like, where are you on that scale?
We do. We promote within. I mean, we have at least, I want to say 10 employees currently in my facility that came to us totally green. So
Totally.
Totally green. They knew nothing about manufacturing or anything.
What were they doing?
They were young.
Okay.
They
Right,
came
cool.
from Poland, and they came here and looking for work, and a friend of a friend,
Right.
knew they were here, and
Right.
those situations happen a lot less these days than they used to. But anyway, so he comes in green, so we put him on the lathe. Okay, he learns the lathe, then he learns the mill, and now he's my top CMM programmer. Another guy came in green too, very smart gentleman as well. Learned to turn, did a little bit of milling, and now he's the ops manager. And we have at least 3 other guys that are like that came in green, and one girl put her into burring, and now she's helping out with production control and expediting internally. So we do promote within, and we like that a lot. So it's an opportunity for everybody in the company.
That is an opportunity. I bet you tout those stories. I mean, you had them right at the ready. You got, this person ops manager. I bet that must be really encouraging to other employees who look around and see people who've started at the very, bottom, if you want to call it, or very entry level roles and have really progressed over the years. I bet that's a really strong retention tool.
I would hope so. I think it is, especially when I had 4 guys that left and came back and are still here.
Yeah.
So that's very encouraging, They always think the grass is greener, and sometimes it is. There's no doubt about it.
Listen,
nobody's perfect. I know my company's not perfect, but we do the best we can every day.
Right. Well, and you got to be perfect for the right people, right? Some people maybe want more of a corporate structure or whatever. Some people maybe want a much, much smaller business, right?
It's
you got
absolutely
it's the
true.
right,
The last 2 recent hires I made said the biggest thing why I made the change, I wanted to be for a family-owned company.
Right.
Came from the corporate-owned facility, and
I wanted this
wasn't for him,
Yeah.
Maybe no knock to that company, it just wasn't for this gentleman. So,
have you guys, I know the business itself has been growing, and are you guys been growing the employee count much? And how are you, because you're doing so much in the organization. I wonder how you're finding, we hear from everybody how hard it is to find good help. You seem to be keeping your help. I always say the first step to solving your employee problems are don't lose the good ones, right? Let's start there. Right. And then you can build from that. So it sounds like you got box 1 checked.
Box 1 checked has been very good, and retaining the employees that we have been very fortunate so far to date. Getting new ones has been the biggest challenge, especially in the machining area. You find somebody for driver, or to teach somebody into burring is pretty simple. To find somebody, it's just a matter of getting someone that actually show up every day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've had some buttes. One guy was to show up, and he supposedly got lost in the parking lot maze of Bradley Airport, which I'm curious where that maze is. I'd love to find out where it is. I can't find it myself, but anyways, that's just an example of the workforce out there. Either they don't want to work or they're not willing to work. But retaining the employees has been good. And I think it's because of the family atmosphere and being, compassionate to their needs, and they're compassionate to ours as well.
You get a good amount of referrals from your employees if you're looking for new employees. Is that
I would say at least 10 people I have working for me are because they knew someone that started working for me before.
That's always a great source. It is shocking to me, and I'm not a sociologist. I don't have any of the stats, but it is amazing the stuff that just sort of happens. A number of people. I mean, we've had multiple people that have accepted the offer, signed the offer letter, and then never got back to us. Just disappeared. So, sometimes you wonder after the offer letter, they got to go take a drug test. So you wonder if maybe that's the reason. Yeah, maybe that's the reason, who knows, but it is amazing out there. And just like you said, someone says they got lost in a maze at Bradley. I don't even know what that has to do with.
This guy didn't sign a letter, but there's some amazing stories out there, but the good ones you hold on to, right?
Yeah, got to keep on keeping on. So,
right.
It's been a really great conversation around employees, but I wanted to turn a little bit to something that you did recently that I thought was really interesting. And speaking of showing leadership, this is really showing leadership beyond just even satellite tool, which is, I know there was a big lobbying trip, I think, for the F-35 engine, which you guys are on. So don't let me tell the story. Maybe you should tell me the story. Yeah. I only know it from the outside.
Raytheon Technologies invited a bunch of key suppliers on the F-135 engine to go down to DC and lobby for the new F-135 engine core upgrade, which requires for the aircraft of about $400 million in investment, as opposed to the AETP Advanced Engine Transition Program, which is heavily boasted by a competitor. Now, with the current F-135 engine upgrade, it would keep 70% of the parts as is, being made, no changes, sustainable. The other 30% of them or so, 30 to 40%, would have slight modifications to them. Now, if I was making either one of the parts that had no modification or slight modifications compared to making a brand new part, right? 3 different things. The one I'm currently making, keep making it, no problem. Mm-hmm. The one I got to make some slight changes to, okay, a little bit NRE involved, slight changes maybe to some tooling or just some dimensions, no problem. Not a huge cost, a little bit. Making a whole new part now. Now you got to learn the whole new process,
new tooling, new process.
All the startup, learn the new parts and all that. Could have some different specifications required in there. Most likely not anything over dramatic, but still huge learning curve. The biggest problem with the AETP, you can only go into one of the airframes as opposed to the upgrade, which would go to all 3. Now, why the upgrade? The airframe has been upgraded already 3 times with weapons, engine controls, stuff like that. With the engine controls, with the engine cooling system, the engine hasn't been updated, so it's not really working with what the upgrade was done to the controls. Typically, in the history of military aircraft engine programs, the engine should have been upgraded already, if not twice by now, and it has been upgraded once. So this upgrade is a drop-in, pretty simple drop-in compared to a whole engine drop-in to the aircraft. $2.4 billion development cost for the new upgrade as opposed to a $6.7 billion development cost for a competitor's brand new engine.
Right.
As a taxpayer, those numbers right there are huge.
Yeah.
Sustainment doesn't cost us anything to sustain it except what it's costing us now. So kind of they call that $0. Right. To sustain a new engine, $20+ billion it could be. And of course, that's an estimate, which probably is a pretty good estimate based off of historical values.
or low, usually, right?
Right. So, it supports multiple countries, partner countries, the engine grade upgrade. It means a lot for the state of Connecticut. The biggest thing that we talked about and lobbied for was all the people that work on this engine in my facility, not only there, but in my surrounding partners, meaning my suppliers. My sub-tiers, the coating houses, the NDT houses, and the smaller houses that make some of the nuts and bolts and details that go into these engines as well. It affects thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this state alone, Aerospace Alley, Connecticut River Valley alone. It's quite tremendous. There was a good contingent from Florida as well as some other states that are involved. I think it was Ohio, maybe in Missouri was another company I talked to. We got to meet with the staff members of Blumenthal, Larson, and also Chris Smith. Murphy. Sorry, Chris Murphy. And Chris Murphy came in and spent a couple minutes with us and expressed his support for us as well, which was very nice to have. And we had the support of Pratt there as well, with Jill Albertelli, President of Military Engines, was there with us, as well as the Vice President, John Latke, as well as some of their staff members and other supporters. So the conversations all went very well, and it was nice to see that 3 weeks later, it has matriculated into an award. So that is huge.
I was going to say timing's right, because I think,
you know,
I don't know when the show's going to release, but they just announced it, I think, on Monday of this week.
Yeah, to see a return on investment coming from doing that activity is huge, and it's definitely makes me feel proud for the time I spent away from my family and my company to help make this happen.
Yeah.
So it's very big for Pratt Whitney and for the state of Connecticut, as well as Florida and other surrounding states that work on this.
And save some money for the taxpayers overall. So the rest of us appreciate that.
Taxpayer dollars is huge, and the safety of our country is huge. This does not allow a gap in any kind of war fighters, which are needed now.
Yeah, well,
and could be needed more in the future, for all we know.
For all we know, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think that's awesome, Jack, and I'm certain that everyone appreciates, you know, you and the other, I think it was 19 or so, you know, leaders from other companies around here, plus 20 from other states as well, that kind of went down to make that happen. So, good investment of your time, I think, and just another example of you doing what you need to do to support the work that your team does and make sure that that work is there for them in the future.
That's all I can do.
That's all we can do. Well, Jack, thanks so much for going through all that. I'm going to turn us over to rapid fire round of questions, and we'll wrap up our time. You ready?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, here we go. Don't worry, they're mostly fun questions.
Okay.
All right, Red Sox or Yankees?
Don't really carry the way, but Red Sox.
There we go. Starbucks or Dunkin'?
I like Starbucks better. Dunkin's easier, more accessible.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Staycation or exotic destination?
Oh, exotic destination.
There we go. If you had to do something other than be president of Satellite Tool, and it could be anything in the whole wide world, what would you do to spend your time?
Something I'd be good at potentially would be a stand-up comedian. Something I wouldn't be good at would be a professional hockey player. But that's what I would do other than this.
Wow, that's awesome. In my mind, I know that question's coming, and I think to myself, I always wonder what someone's going to say. You hit me out of left field with stand-up comedian Jack, but I absolutely love it. We'll have to do another show where we just do stand-up. We do like a stand-up routine between the two of us. Whatchamacallit? What's something, Jack, that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think's helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
If you don't work for it, you don't get it. It's one thing my father said. You got to work for it to get it. Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. What's something that you learned later in your life or later in your career that if you went back and told young Jack, and if that kid would listen to you, it'd really make a positive impact on his life?
Try to slow down. Be patient. That's the biggest thing for me.
It's so hard for young people to listen to.
Right.
But absolutely so true. If we could just sort of slow it down.
Especially in aerospace, it's hard to slow down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jack, it has been absolutely awesome talking to you. I really, really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
You as well. I appreciate time with you too. It's been a pleasure.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by CompassMSP.
Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a strong manufacturing community, and it would be impossible to do without all of you.